So to introduce, my name's Eric Dodd. I'm licensed with the state of Washington as a mental health counselor. And some things about me. Apropos for the client population, I work with ADHD. I'm diagnosed myself, and that is obvious when you look at my life. So just lots of different interests, lots of strong fleeting interests. Lived in Japan on accident for a couple of years. I was a power lifter for 7 years. I set the deadlift record for Washington State. Performing musician for a long time. Been playing guitar since I was like 15. So lots of different interests. I started seeing people with ADHD because I had a diagnosis, and I just wanted to help people with the same challenges, basically. What ended up happening is, as I got more and more adult ADHD cases, a lot of people came in, and what was going on is they had trauma, they had PTSD. So there were, lots of overlapping symptomology of the two issues. So as a matter of course, I work with people with ADHD, but I've also ended up working with people with trauma, and those people with trauma and ADHD are often anxious or depressed. So what I ended up specializing in, I started specializing in ADHD, but what I ended up specializing in was ADHD, trauma, anxiety, and depression. It's interesting when we talk about inspiration for the job, because I kind of fell into it. But I think that makes it just as legitimate. A lot of people talk about, well, I had a calling since I was a kid, that kind of thing. Not for me. So I did school for about 3 years until I finally got a letter from University of Washington saying I had to choose a major or they were going to kick me out. So I went with psychology because I'd just taken a ton of psychology classes. And I've always found psychology of people and the psychology of animals just absolutely fascinating. I ended up ultimately, we had a death in the family when I was like 23, so I quit school and decided to be a personal trainer because why not? I did that for about a year, and that just didn't work out nearly as well as I thought it would. So I came back, finished my undergraduate, and then went and did my master's, and then got hired as an outreach worker for homeless folks. Like I said, I kind of fell into it, but I think there's a lot of beauty in that, just because, life kind of nudges you in different directions, and sometimes those directions are quite profound. I've thought about this a lot because I wanted it to be useful to people, and I think the thing that you might try is every time you do anything, notice the beginning, middle, and end. And so no matter what you're doing, no matter how mundane or profound, no matter how small the task or large the project, always note, okay, we're getting started now. And then when you get about halfway through, whatever feels like halfway through, we're halfway through now. And then when you get to the end, okay, we're done. You're doing stuff throughout the day. So what that means is every time you do anything, you have 3 opportunities to be present. And then the beginning can be celebratory and the end can be celebratory. So you can experience a lot of more pleasant, more positive emotion, and also increased presence just by, here we go. We're in the middle now. Yay, we're done. It's an amazing thing. I use that with a lot of clients, and they tend to appreciate it. And it depends on the person. I would go with paying attention to things one-pointedly. So whatever you do, make sure you're doing that and paying attention to it. So if you wash the dishes, say you're washing the dishes with your hands, what does it feel like to wash the dishes? Is there a scent to the soap? Is the water pleasantly warm or unpleasantly hot? And again, mark the middle, or the beginning, middle, and end. Just notice that when you pay attention to one thing at a time, a lot of other stuff is set aside automatically, mentally, psychologically. So thoughts may abate somewhat. You may have less like self-castigating thoughts, that kind of thing. And the most important thing, and in fact, the most important thing the only thing, and this is something I read, the only thing that can't be an illusion is your subjective experience. Everything else can be illusory. You could be illusory. You could be a brain in a vat, and you could still be having the experience that you're having right now. And because of that, what you do right here, right now is just wicked important, because that's the only place stuff happens. So being able to pay attention to one thing at a time as you move through your day, again, I think is useful. So first, if you're concerned that you have ADHD, get the appropriate testing done. Get the appropriate testing done. One more time. Get the appropriate testing done. Because otherwise, you can get you can get diagnosed in a short amount of time, and that is not good because this is a neurodevelopmental issue. That's the reason I don't diagnose it as a mental health counselor. So get the appropriate testing done, QB test, paper and pencil tests, all that. You can get it from a neuropsychologist or a psychologist or even a pediatrician, depending on what they're trained for. I've had people come into my office and say, I would like this diagnosis because I identify with it. That is a mistake. You should not associate your sense of self with a diagnosis. I really think people are selling themselves short on that. And yeah, I think as kids, it's a little different because everybody is sort of surrounding the child and you're going, okay, what can we do here, etc. As an adult, if you haven't been diagnosed yet, but you're diagnosed in adulthood, there are a lot of different complications to deal with. So yeah, I just can't overemphasize, make sure your diagnosis is accurate. And the reason I say that is because I've run into so many people who come in for ADHD, but they actually had something like reactions to severe stress or PTSD or really strong adjustment. So that getting that diagnosis is good because it overlaps with something like 16 other diagnoses. So it's not the easiest thing to diagnose already. So here's some stuff I wish I would have known after my mom passed away when I was 23. I wished that I would have known that the people around me were going to behave unexpectedly. So the people who really cared about me, who I thought would be there for me, some of those people were not. It wasn't personal, they just didn't happen to be there. Other people who I would never have thought jumped into my life to help out. Okay, so there's this kind of, it feels like a social flip when you have really strong grief and things are difficult and people can't necessarily relate to what you're going through. I wish I had been more flexible in receiving that because there were a lot of people who were there for me. And it was very helpful, but it was also kind of a mixed bag emotionally because some people I wish were there were not. So just being okay with who's there for you. And then the other thing is that, so grief is a natural process. So the important thing is, and this is very sort of counselory thing to say, but it's really important to feel the grief. So the trope in counseling is you can either deal with this now or you can deal with it 10 years from now, essentially. And you feel the feelings, they come, they peak, and they pass away, and over time they run their course. That's the important part. I think people run into complications when they start avoiding. I don't want to feel this, so I'm going to chug a beer. I don't want to feel this, so I'm going to work out really hard, et cetera, et cetera. It's not always feasible to feel grief. You know, we have to work and that kind of thing. But when you can, that's the thing I would